Today, I'm listening to Stella speak about the powerful journey to birthing her first baby. Stella comes from a very medically minded family, but chose to birth her first child free of the medical system with the trust and knowing that her body was capable of navigating this experience. After learning that it's totally possible to have a safe and uncomplicated pregnancy journey without engaging with the medical system, Stella chose to hold her autonomy throughout this pregnancy and to listen deeply to her intuition. When getting close to the very end stages of pregnancy, Stella's body started practicing for her birth process with mild contractions on and off for about 2 weeks. But with that trust of her intuitive voice and knowing that she didn't need to go into the hospital, Stella chose to surrender into what her body was preparing her for, the birth of her first child. Stella birthed a 9-pound baby in the comfort of her home with her partner, her 14-year-old stepdaughter, and her aunt present as witnesses to her transformation. I can't think of a better experience for a 14-year-old girl to have a front row seat to than a gentle, loving, and safe birth free of the medical system. Get comfy and listen to Stella's words of her amazing pregnancy and birth experience. Hi, Stella. So,
Hello.
hi, thank you so much for being here with me today. I am very excited to hear your birth stories or your birth story, pardon, you just have the one at the moment. But yeah, I'm so excited that you were a first-time mom and decided to birth your baby in this beautiful way right off the bat.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here and to
mm,
share my story with you.
yeah, so then we're just going to get straight into it. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is the ancestry and lineage that you're passing on to your child?
Cool. Yeah. So my ancestry is Nigerian.
Mm.
I'm first generation Nigerian, a Nigerian here. Um, and yeah, that goes deep in and of itself, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's just the flat out answer is I know my ancestry comes from Nigeria and that's where
Mhm.
my direct lineage is from.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I can expound on that if you want.
Yeah, feel free if you want to. That's totally great. I love it.
Sorry, I have my little here, so I should be coming back real soon to rescue me. But
No worries.
yeah, so I come from a lineage of Nigerians, but also within my family, we have a
Mm.
lot of doctors,
Mm.
healers, and I would say my direct lineage, a lot of us, well, I won't say us because I'm not in the medical space, like the Western medical space,
Mm.
but a lot of my family is my mother was a medical doctor. She has transitioned, but she was a medical doctor, and then a lot of her siblings are medical doctors. So I come from, and then my grandfather on my maternal side was one of the first doctors in the village that they're from. And I only mention that to say what I feel like a calling towards being a healer and healing my lineage, but it's not through, it's so contrary to like the Western medical allopathic space that kind of the story of free birthing my first and any children to come is definitely outside the box for my family and my direct lineage. So
Yeah,
um a little different, but
absolutely.
it's what our people have done since the beginning of time. So
Absolutely. Yes, it is. It's just birth. So that's a perfect segue then to ask you, where does your motherhood journey begin?
yeah. So whew, loaded question. Probably from many, many lifetimes ago. And that was kind of like a mantra throughout my whole birth experience. It's like I've done this so many times before because I've always felt like since I was little, this calling into motherhood and into the kind of the birth space in general, I would say from since I was my I grew up kind of like in the doctor's office. So I was always within a medical setting and my mom was a family practitioner and I would always help out around the office, probably illegally, but we were all at her office. There's six of us and we would always be there. And I always loved helping with the kids that would come on in, whether I was entertaining them or they were getting shots and I would calm them down and give them lollipops. Like I was just there. And so when I started to think about what I wanted to do, my first thought was I want to be a doctor like my mom. And then my thought was I want to be an OBGYN. I want to work in delivery and obstetrics. And so that was kind of what I thought my path would be. And then when I got into university at orientation, there was just something in me that was like, this isn't right. I don't want to do pre-med. It was like right away, I dropped it at orientation.
Wow.
But that tug, that nudge into kind of birth work was always there. And I guess it kind of got silenced for a while. And then more recently, I found out about a society called the Free Birth Society, and it has a lot of women who are kind of doing this thing and free birthing. And the founder, Emily Saldea, I took the Radical Birth Keeper School, and as I was doing this school that was all about training women to assist birth outside of the system, as I was doing that, here's my husband, you can grab her. As I was doing that, I kind of was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like my time is now. Like I want to, like, I know there's a baby in me. I started to really, I've always kind of known there was a little girl coming through me at some point. And I got her name. I received her name. And doing that school, I was just like, man, she feels close. She feels so close. And I actually had an experience engaging with plant medicine, ayahuasca, where I really felt her soul. And I was like, yeah, this baby is coming.
Wow.
And yeah, within 6 months, she was conceived.
Wow.
And so yeah, I think motherhood has always kind of been in me. And then on top of that, birth work has kind of been tugging at me, and it's still kind of manifesting itself. But it's going in a non-traditional route, which I feel is definitely right for me, and just kind of putting the pieces together.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So when you say non-traditional route for the birth work, you're meaning stepping away from
the most traditional
route. Yeah, switch it, because you're stepping away from that medical system and coming back to the root of the birth work. Okay. Yeah.
Truly the most traditional route, the route that we all come from.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of I want to be in that work of restoring that and showing it's nothing scary at all. Like
Absolutely.
people, like it's been made out to be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so important and it's so necessary that all people, but especially women in their pregnancy, birth, postpartum continuum, know that like this is in our bones, this is in our body, in our blood. We are meant to birth babies, especially birth babies free, in our power, and in this beautiful way. So yeah, it's great that you're getting into that work and you're going to be able to shine that light for those that are seeking it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then going into this pregnancy journey that you've had, because you said you did the complete guide to free birth. So then I'm assuming you had a full wild pregnancy, or did you seek medical assistance? Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Oh my gosh, I had such a magical pregnancy. And yeah, I actually did the Radical Birth Keeper School. So Emily and Yolanda, they have the complete guide to free birth, which a lot of women, it's kind of just like a video guide as to what it looks like and how to have a free birth. And then I did the Radical Birth Keeper School. So it was within that is laced the complete guide to free birth, but it's also training on how to assist women. And so it's like really in depth. We're doing live classes, and it was really engaging. And I had never heard of something like a wild pregnancy, like just not engaging in the medical system at all. Like I was the one in the class, like, wow, this is a thing. Like I didn't even know this was an option. Because I definitely would have gone the route of having, probably would have wanted, I definitely would have wanted a midwife, because I just thought like that's the way to do this the most naturally. But then I found out, oh, you can just like not engage at all. And I was like, I'm signing up for that. Like I feel like that's what I need. I feel like that feels the most free to me, and I'm all about just like freedom and sovereignty, right? And so yeah, I didn't have an OB at all during my pregnancy, or I never went in for any appointments. And yeah, I mean, it was truly beautiful. I'm very fortunate, and I believe privileged in a way to say I just had a very non-complicated. I didn't have any risks involved in my pregnancy. So for me, it made sense and it worked. And I recognize that as a blessing, but I also recognize that a lot more women may have this experience if they even knew it was an option to like completely be in autonomy over their pregnancy. And so yeah, I had one instance when I was about 20 weeks. I started getting a pain on my right side and it wasn't going away. It was kind of persistent for like 2 weeks. And I told my partner, like, I think, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling like I should go in just to get it checked, just to have that peace of mind. And that was also a beautiful part of it too, is that I could tap into my intuition throughout the pregnancy. And my intuition said, all right, go in.
Yeah.
And I'm very much about people listening to what the body is saying, not like being so extreme as to not, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes, there's people who have knowledge that I don't. But I say that, but then I'm also like, I did not need to go in at all. Like,
Okay. Yeah.
it felt like a waste of time. I was there for like 4 hours. They told me like, oh, we think the baby might be moving. I personally didn't want any ultrasounds or Doppler or anything. And of course they have to, as procedure, they used a Doppler on me. I didn't, and it was even like, I don't think it's the hugest deal in the world, but it was kind of like, I didn't really want that or need it. And when I was in that institution, I couldn't say no. I probably could have.
Well, I mean, you can say
Yeah,
no, but they make it very difficult for you to
right.
say no.
Or it's just procedure. And so you don't want to be that person that's like, no, 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 like some people will. I'm just not that kind of person. So I just went with the protocol. I didn't get an ultrasound, but they did, check her heartbeat. I knew it was a girl. Just in my spirit, I knew she was a
Yeah.
girl. But it felt like, okay, I really don't need to be here and I really don't need to engage in this. And my biggest, one of my prayers is that I won't have to,
Yeah,
so
exactly. And now you've experienced that. You went into the system seeking what you thought you needed. They didn't necessarily give it to you.
right,
So, for the next pregnancy that you have, you said if you have any more children, you can really deeply tap into that intuition and,
exactly.
you know that you can trust yourself more than seeking outwardly, or you can go and seek outwardly again, and maybe it will be a different situation, but it's one of those lessons that you get to learn about yourself as you're in this pregnancy journey. And that's why it's so beautiful having the wild pregnancies, because you really need to tune in and tap into yourself to start figuring out what it is that you're saying, what your baby's saying. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll also add, like I mentioned, I come from a very medical family, so I felt slightly isolated in how I was approaching things because no one in my family has, and nobody truly understood. And to the point where I was finding myself kind of lying to people about like how I was going about my pregnancy. And that, at first it felt like I'm protecting myself. I don't feel like I don't want their energy to affect the way I'm doing things, because I know people will be worried and people think that, I mean, even people that I told that I wasn't getting any ultrasounds, my aunt calls me, she's like, Stella, you're keeping me up. I can't sleep at night. I can't sleep. She's like freaking out. She's like, if your mother was here, she would want me to be telling you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have to understand she was a delivery nurse for years, and I have to understand these people have, they're coming with a lot of experiences or just the conditioning of the world. And, you know, yeah, take it or leave it. So, but because of that, I was like, man, I just don't want to share with a lot of people what I'm doing, because I don't want all of that energy to affect my experience. So there were some people I told some white lies to. There were some people I told a little bit more to. But it definitely felt like, there's not a lot of people in my community that were doing this thing. And so it was truly like me and my partner, like, we're doing this. This is what feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
then by listening to your intuition, did you do anything like throughout that pregnancy journey that you're on, like chiropractors, or did you like just kind of see what felt right and then you just did it if you needed
yeah,
it
girl, to
and
be honest, I was being cheap. Okay, I did have a doula. I should
Okay.
mention I did have a doula. We
Mhm.
met maybe 3 times the whole time. She
Mhm.
just came over to our house, and even in retrospect, even that I was like, I really didn't
Mm.
really need that, but I
Mm.
I really I appreciate the fact that I had her.
Yeah.
And so that was the extent of it. I just didn't I could have seen a chiropractor because girl, my back was hurting. I was like, man, this probably would be helpful. I just didn't want to pay for it out of pocket.
Fair.
So I
Mm.
no, yeah, it was just I had my baby
Mm.
give me massages.
Mm.
I was like, I get some oil, massage
Mm.
me. I definitely got my pampering, but that
Nice.
was that was about it.
I love that. Yeah, I just love that because it's just you just living your life, but you're pregnant.
Right.
It's not an emergency. It's not some illness. It's not something crazy that's happening to your body. You're just pregnant.
Like our bodies remember this. Like we've been
Mm-hmm.
doing this since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was just, and I throughout my pregnancy, I was 27, turned 28.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my late 20s, I can't say that I was experiencing, quote unquote geriatric pregnancy. I hate that term. But
Yeah.
I feel like I was in a good window to where my
Mm-hmm.
body could figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, when they get pregnant older, like different parts hurt more. It could hurt or not hurt, but like be more uncomfortable in certain ways.
Mm.
Um, but I just didn't experience that. So I was able to really just lean into what was going on and
Mm.
go, all of the mystery of pregnancy was so beautiful. Like even
Mm-hmm.
feeling so deeply that this was a baby girl, but not knowing like she could have popped
Yeah.
out a boy. I would always tell myself, like, I know it's a girl, but if a boy comes out, I'm gonna be real thrown off. I have to like
Yeah.
reset my mind in so many ways. But
Mm-hmm.
even that mystery was just like it felt like that's the way it's supposed to be. Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to know that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
it's
mean, I'm
true.
okay with not knowing that much. It drives some people crazy. My sister's pregnant right now, and she's like, not like me at all.
Okay.
She's
Yeah.
asking me like, did you get like a pain in your right side on the third week? And then like ask me very specific questions, and I just laugh because I'm like, I don't know, I don't remember. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, we're very different in that way, but I love the journey she's on too because it
Mm-hmm.
shows the span of like what pregnancy can look like. And she's also like, you know, um, going the route of home birthing. And so
Okay.
that was really cool too to see like wonder
Mm-hmm.
how my experience is affecting the other women in my family who are kind of
Mm-hmm.
watching what I'm doing. Not to say she's
Absolutely.
she's doing it because of me, but she
Mm-hmm.
did get to see me doing that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that is another thing that I'm really proud of. And my stepdaughter's 14 and she got to be there.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, it's great because I keep saying this to the women that I speak with, that you birthing in this way, you're the center of that spiral or the center of that web, and you're affecting the lives of the women that will come, that you birth into this world and the women that come after you, and then the women, that were there before you, going back into your
absolutely.
mother's line, your grandmother's line. So it's just this one simple, easy, natural way of bringing your baby into the world has such a big effect on everyone around you, whether they, can consciously realize it or not. It's really powerful. It's powerful
Mm-hmm.
work that you're doing, standing in your own sovereignty as a woman, as a mother. It's really, really strong
Mm-hmm.
medicine.
Yeah, medicine is such a good word for it. So I
Hmm.
got chills when you said that. Yeah, like that's what it definitely is. Not
Hmm.
even just what it feels like. It is healing a lot that a
Hmm.
lot of falsities that have been kind of put on us since we were born, like all
Totally.
the conditioning.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start segueing kind of into the end of pregnancy and into that
Yeah.
birth?
Yeah, so mm, it was September.
Mm.
My 40-week mark was September like 15th, 14th. 15th, yeah. And so I remember a week before that, and this is so funny because it just goes to show how you're the only person that really knows what's going on. So
Mhm.
about a week before my 40-week mark, I started to get, my surges were starting to get a little
Mhm.
stronger, like the sensations
Mm.
a little stronger. And I'm like, I think these are, you don't know, like my first time, you really don't know what's going on. So I'm like, I think they're getting stronger. Like I was out at an event for work and I was like, I don't think these are, I don't even like to say the word Braxton Hicks, but we're just going to use that for the sake of people knowing what I'm talking about. But Braxton Hicks, if you don't know, has nothing to do with what was happening in my body. That
Mhm.
man who claimed he knew what was happening in the female body years, centuries
Mhm.
ago, is basically practice contractions or early contractions, right? And so
Mhm.
they're starting to happen and they're getting stronger. And I had an app on my phone just so I would have an idea of how far apart they were.
Mhm.
And so I start clocking like when these things are coming in. And they weren't like super strong, but I just like again, you don't know what's happening. And so I was timing them and it said like looks like you should, pack up and start getting ready to go to the hospital. Like the app was saying that.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, funny, because I'm not going to the hospital at all. But also funny because I wasn't in labor, like this is
Mhm.
weeks before my baby actually decided to come forth, right?
Mhm.
So I just imagine sometimes if I had gone in, and they saw that she was a large child, if they saw that I was getting dilated, all these things, like what would they have started to say?
Mhm.
know, would I, induction, would that be in the narrative? Would they start, claiming that this was wrong or that was wrong? There was meconium in the water. Like
Mhm.
what would have been the story, right?
Yeah.
And so I just like deleted the app. My friend was like,
Nice.
she was like, love, this is your first baby. She, the baby could be coming 3 weeks after your 15 week or your 40 weeks. Like, just go with it, feel
Mhm.
into what's happening. You're good.
Mhm.
And so that's what I did. And so for the next 2 weeks, I was just like riding the wave. And when my 40-week mark came, I told my job, I was like, okay, I'm pretty tapped out. Like I
Oh,
was
you
in,
worked until 40 weeks.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Because I didn't want to use my maternity leave, right? I was
Okay.
given 6 weeks, and then they upped it to 7 weeks. Like, oh, thank you. Really, every woman should have like a year because I'm already like, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was given, so I didn't want to start it, so I just like kept working. You
Mm.
know what? I'm lying to you. I stopped at 39 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like, I'm done. Like I can't even focus on my work, honestly. So I did my transitioning out of work. And yeah, so for 2 weeks I was just kind of like grooving with it. It was, fall was on the horizon. It's like that time of year where it's just brisk
Mhm.
outside and it's perfect. I'm in Ohio, so it
Okay.
was just like a really magical time. And
Mhm.
then on September 22nd, I remember I was laying down and I just like in my dream, I was like, what if my water just broke? And as soon as I opened my eyes, I feel like I felt the mucus plug like shoot out and like water.
Wow.
I was just like, I was literally laying down there. I was like, babe, babe, my water's breaking.
I love that.
My stepdaughter comes in the room. She's like, "Oh no," because she was home from school, so she was like, "Oh no, it's happening." I could tell she was kind of nervous, but super excited that she was gonna get to experience that. And she was like my
Mhm.
cameraman, so I was like, "Get on it!" It's funny because the 2 weeks before that, when I thought I was going to labor, I did the whole like nesting the house. I'm like,
Mm.
it's happening," and then nothing. I had her take
Mhm.
pictures of me and everything. So yeah, so water is just breaking everywhere. I noticed that there was, a tint to it. So I texted my doula. I said, "Hey, my water just broke and it's starting, and I was like, I sent her a picture of the water. She's like, "Don't worry about it." But I'm sure there's a little meconium in there.
Mm.
And um it was literally like, all right, go time.
Mhm.
Because I also, my friend, actually, well, it was Emily that I was texting, Emily Saldea, and I was like, hey, my water just broke. And she's like, okay, be prepared for another like 72, 72 hours, just giving like don't get your expectations too high. This could still be a while. Like your water's opening doesn't mean you're like in the active labor necessarily,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it got like intense quick. And so for the next, yeah, so I will explain, like downstairs, we set it all up like to be a full vibe. I had my living room, I had music playing, we had incense burning. We had a pool, like a birth pool that my friend had, that we borrowed. So my husband got that all set up, and it was just so beautiful. I remember I was just dancing through it. Like the
Mm-hmm.
early sensations were manageable, so I was able to eat and dance and enjoy what was happening. Like it was just like you said, it was just another day. It was just
Mm-hmm.
another beautiful day. And that was actually the fall equinox.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
really magical in that, like the outside air was just coming in, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, um yeah, and so I got at the pool at some point when the sensations were getting a little stronger, and just rode the wave. We were just riding the wave. In retrospect, I probably got in the water a little early because
Mm.
it could have slowed down the labor a little bit. And I couldn't stay in the water so long. Like
Right.
sometimes it felt so good to get in there, but then it would intensify and I felt like I had to move.
Mm.
But to have the freedom to literally get out of the pool, go upstairs, come back downstairs, like I was able to really use the whole house. Like I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
restrained at all. And when they were getting really strong, and to the point where I was like, holy shit, this is really happening. I was like, this hurts. I remember at some point I went on our bed and I was just like, I just want it to be
Oh.
over. And it's so funny because I said it hurts, but I really don't describe it as pain. I don't remember it as pain.
Mm-hmm.
It was just intensity. Like it was just a
Mm.
really intense vibration that I
Mm.
had no control over. It's like if you want to learn about surrender, have a baby, because your body
Yeah.
was just doing it, and like I couldn't stop it. I couldn't tell the surges to chill for a minute, and like it was just like going and going and rolling. And yeah, I started getting that sensation like I had to poop, and I was like, I need to go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
And so my doula, she was great. She was pregnant herself, and she was kind of at that tapped out point too. So she was just kind of watching me like, yeah, do whatever. I'm pretty sure she fell asleep at some point in the corner.
Aw.
Like she was just like she was doing her thing. It was 8, 9 hours. And
Wow.
yeah, it was not too long at all. And so we went to the bathroom because I thought I had to poop. And I was like, nope, nope, nope. I think this is her. She's coming. So I was on the toilet, they call the toilet dilation station.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the toilet on and off, and then I got on all fours in the bathroom. And um oh, I forgot to mention, I also called one of my aunts. So I have
Mm-hmm.
an aunt who's a little bit more on the hippie side like me, but she's
Mm-hmm.
also, not quite as far as me. And so she was 2 hours away, and I called her at some point, and so she drove over. And she's like super uber Christian, African
Mm.
Christian mom. And so she comes in the room, and when she got here, I was in the birth pool, and she comes in like singing praise and worship, like, no, I thank God. And I was like, uh-uh. It's like, you're not, don't bring that in here right now. I just need to be like in my zone. And so she comes over to me, she's like, oh, poor baby. Because I was struggling in the birthing pool. And I remember looking at her and I'm like, I'm not poor. I'm fine. Like I'm doing all right. She was like, okay. But I was really on the struggle bus. And and then she like puts her hands on me and starts speaking in tongues. And I was like, Auntie, stop. Enough. I was like, please go sit down. So she
Oh,
went to the corner, sat down, and didn't say another word until the baby was coming. So
wow.
finally, when the baby's coming hours later, it's like all of us up in the bathroom. It was kind of chaos, but it was, like the perfect chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, oh my God, you hear like my daughter is like was like filming everything, and yeah, just she came on all fours, and she she was 9.5 pounds, so she was a large child, not too large, but I think I pushed probably around 5 times, like really, really felt that sensation to push. And that's another thing, like you just don't know until you know, right? So it's like I I cannot believe that people coach pushing, because I'm literally like I was at the mercy of my body. And so if someone was coaching me contrary to what my body was saying, I would be ignoring her and then listening to this other person and just completely go against the flow and the dance of birth.
Yeah.
And so to be able to just be like, okay, she's saying go, she's saying stop, rest.
Yeah.
Rest when you can, because you don't get a lot of rest. So she came and she plopped out. My husband caught her. And he had like a towel and sat her down, and I was on all fours, so I couldn't like directly get to her. And I would say this is like the one part that kind of, when I look back, kind of annoys me, because I wanted to flip over right away. I was just like in that it's just like ecstasy. I was in that zone of like, oh, this just happened. And maternal instincts, I just wanted to grab or scoop her up. I tried to like kind of turn around, and they were like, wait. My stepdaughter says, yeah, because you almost kicked her head. And I'm like, whatever. The doula was like, she's a little limp, she's a big girl, she's a little limp, like, hold on. And like in the video, she's like wiping her eyes, and I was like, in retrospect, because she didn't make a noise, like she came out peacefully. She wasn't crying or anything. And so it was probably some seconds, and I was like, all right, like I'm doing this. So I flipped around, scooped her up into my arms, and within seconds, she made a little whoop, like she made her little sound. And it still wasn't even a cry. She was just like, I'm good, I'm here, and it was so awesome to just hold her up in my arms. And then that's when she started making noise, and she's like, I'm cool. And yeah, it just was that. It just was that. Aww. Such a beautiful, it was like 4:30 p.m. afternoon. And when I did my envisioning of birth, I'm like, I want it to be late at night, and I'm down, and music playing and all this stuff. And instead it was like roaring in the bathroom mid-afternoon. Like straight up afternoon. But it was so cool, because I got her in my arms. Within maybe 15 minutes, I sat back on the toilet, and my placenta plopped right out.
Oh, nice.
Which was, yeah, thank God it came fast. And yeah, hobbled over to my bed with her, and it was just like, my sister says my husband like FaceTimed her, and she said, you were out of it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure I was, because I just remember being like complete ecstasy. Like, the oxytocin is real. Like that, it kicked in, and I was just like, I went to another dimension to grab my daughter.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's such a beautiful story. So
Thank you.
and yeah, having a you said 9-pound baby. So did you tear it all? Because that's what everyone says. Like, your baby's too big, you're gonna tear. And
yeah, I still don't actually know if I tore. I don't think I did. But I was pretty sore down there. Like, I didn't get any exams or anything like that, so I don't know for sure. Like, no one looked down there. But I did, my first pee was pretty hard. I used, a peri bottle.
Oh yeah.
For like a few days after, and I was pretty sore down there for, but I feel like it was a normal amount of time.
Yeah.
And if I tore, it was very micro, it was, bit more than a first degree, if I did at all. I feel like there's a chance I did. But yeah, she was 9.5 pounds. She was a large child with a big old head. And I was like, man, that came out. I remember just at her, and like for the next few hours, just looking at her like, oh my God, that just came out of me.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. And we weighed her. We weighed her with like one of those Moby wraps. in a luggage,
Okay.
you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so scooped her up in that, and I
Mm-hmm.
had my husband do it like 5 times. I was like, "There's no way." She's like, I was like, but I was 10 pounds when I came out, so it's no
Okay.
surprise that she's
Mm-hmm.
a large child.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just got to lay on my bed. I didn't go downstairs for like a week straight, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when we took her to her first appointment, her first and last, she hasn't been back since because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need
Why did you take her
I
to
don't
an
need
appointment?
I just like I was like, I did this so out of the ordinary. Let me at least be able to say that she has a pediatrician and that I took her to the pediatrician, mostly for my family, if I'm being
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
So we took her just to make sure everything was cool, and they told me what I already knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so yeah, we haven't been back since. I
Okay.
love our pediatrician too. She was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of like I don't know what the word I'm looking for, when you just do things just to do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
I
Yeah.
can't think of the word.
Yeah. Just
Um, yeah.
mm-hmm.
And so I think another really beautiful part was after about 2 or 3 hours after the umbilical cord got limp,
Mm-hmm.
we did like a little burning ceremony. So it was
Oh,
just me, my
beautiful.
stepdaughter, and my partner, and we got to, yeah, we just burned her cord, and
Mm.
thanked the placenta, sang to it, and
Mm.
it was just a sweet little moment. And then I was
Yeah.
able to make an imprint of the placenta
Oh,
on,
nice.
yeah, yeah, and like the placenta, another thing that I'm like, this is the life bearing, this is the
Mm-hmm.
first mother, some cultures call it
Mm-hmm.
the first mother, and like
Mm-hmm.
she sustained my baby for the last nearly 10 months. And so I really wanted to give tribute and honor to the placenta, and we kept it for a while. I froze it. I didn't like encapsulate it or anything,
Okay.
but before it got like super cold out, I just went out by myself and buried her in the backyard. So
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. It's
Wow.
super, super cool to like hold on to it. And it wasn't discarded as medical waste or sent to
Mm-hmm.
research to be put into somebody's face
Makeup or
serum.
yeah. Oh
Like
gosh. Yeah.
my child's like
Yeah.
first home.
Yeah, like you said, it's the grandmother spirit, the grandparent
Yeah,
spirit. They really placentas are they need reverence and honor for what they've done and how they've, kept you connected to your baby and nourished and yeah, it makes me so sad to hear that placentas are discarded as quote unquote waste because it's like no, it's anything but waste. It is
right.
life-giving. So I'm so happy to hear that you honored it in such a beautiful way and brought it back to the earth. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's so nice to
yeah.
hear.
And this house just feels like a super sacred place for us. We moved here like a few months after my mom transitioned, and it felt so much that she led us here. And it's a
Mm,
rental home, we're not going to be here forever. We're calling in our first home to buy,
mm-hmm,
but it just feels like, I love to know that, yeah, the placenta, the tree of life, that,
mm-hmm,
even the placenta, how it looks like a tree, it's just
mm-hmm.
so gorgeous. I had
Yeah.
like this big lump of meat of a placenta, and I'm like, I love you.
Yeah.
And just to know she's in the backyard, she's going to go back to the earth
Mm-hmm.
here and always like remain here in that way is just
Mm-hmm.
it's such a blessing
Mm-hmm.
to have been in control of the her story, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So
Wow. And how was your breastfeeding journey with your babe?
oh yeah, breastfeeding. Oh, what a doozy.
Mm,
Um, I have absolutely loved breastfeeding. It's
mm,
also been one of the most challenging things I've ever done.
okay.
Just in that, so she latched right away. She's
Mm-hmm.
had no problem ever since. And that's another very primal thing. I was watching the of her come out, and as soon as I held her in my arms, I put her down to my breast, right? And I didn't consciously do this. Like I remember it kind of, but
Mm-hmm.
in the video I was like, oh wow. And like she just like kind of nuzzled up to it. And then as
Mm-hmm.
soon as I went down and laid in my bed, I held her up and she latched. And I remember my aunt was there and she's like, oh my God. And she was just like, wow, she's latching right away. I've never seen that. And yeah, that golden hour time was so beautiful. And it stung a little when she first latched, and I'm like, ooh, this is weird. And kind of trying to go through the motions of like, that's what I was trying to think of before. Go through the motions.
Okay.
That's why I took it to the pediatrician. Just like going through the steps and like knowing that, first it's just my colostrum coming out, but I was wondering, is she eating enough? Like, is it enough coming out? And like dealing with the sting every time. And then, but she was doing fine. Like she latched well. And then after a few weeks, like my breasts, especially one of them, started to really hurt. Like every time she would latch on, it was like so painful. And I started to be like, man, this is probably why, like, is this supposed to be the way it is? Like, this is probably why a lot of women don't last very long through breastfeeding. Because not only is it like, was it like starting to hurt, but it was just like, man, I was on her, I'm still on her demand,
Right. Yeah.
But then, I started to just, express my breast and like put some warm water on it. And then, within a few days it cleared up, and now it's just, there's no issue at all. And I'm so glad that wasn't like, oh no, this is too hard, I'm just going to stop.
Yeah.
I was able to just work through it. And now, it's just the most natural thing ever. And I love that my body is still providing nutrients to my baby. And like, she hasn't been sick once. Like there hasn't been any issues, she's 7 months. And that doesn't seem so significant, but then also I'll be seeing other little babies that are having a hard time.
Yeah.
Like, the breast milk, it is so important. It is filled with all the antibodies. It's filled with all of the vaccines that you're putting in your baby's body. Like, it has it right there. Like, it is protecting her. And I now, like, the bonding that it is so worth it. It's so worth like getting annoyed every here and there that I have to do it again. I have to like drop what I'm doing, or trying to like do like work while I'm breastfeeding her. Like, it's not easy, but it is 1,000% worth it. It's just the way it was designed. The design is right.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, the way we're designed is correct. And where some women, I hear a lot of stories of people being like, I just couldn't do it, or it didn't work for my body. And I just wonder, like, I would never judge someone, but at the same time, I wonder, like, were you given the support you needed?
Exactly.
Were you encouraged? Was this prioritized? Do you know how important it is for your baby? All those things. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. But I love it. I right now am kind of in the mindset that I'll just keep going until she's done, until she decides that she doesn't want anymore. Like, that's my plan.
Nice.
My non-negotiable is a year.
Yeah.
And then we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so nice. Yeah. Wow. Wow, your story is so beautiful, and just, it's just another story that I've heard of how easy, like, obviously there's intensity in birth, and you have to work through things, but in the grand scheme of things, the whole pregnancy, birth, postpartum journey can just be so easy, and it can just be exactly what it is, just you living your life, being pregnant, then one day going through your birth process, and then having your baby, and then just navigating life now with this little one that you've born into the world. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I actually had like a vision of making like a little series, which was too hard to like balance everything, but called 40 Days, like DAZE. Because I really felt like my postpartum experience was so dreamy. Like, I was just here falling in love with this little girl, and people were coming in and out of the house, and got to hold her and see her. And I just felt like it was like, this is the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be easeful and loving. Like, I was at homecoming. I went to homecoming within that time with her, and she was like sleeping the whole time, and I was at the tailgates dancing, and everyone's like, "Didn't you just have her?" I'm like, "Yeah, she's cool," and she would sleep the whole time, and I just
Oh.
felt like, yeah, it was definitely. Uh, it's not supposed to be so depressing, and it breaks my heart that so many women are dealing with
Mm-hmm.
a shadow of, because there is a shadow, and I did experience a lot of it. I have experienced, I still do experience a lot of like the hard stuff. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not like it's all perfection.
Mm-hmm.
People, the dark seems to overtake the light so much in this whole experience of becoming a mother, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
simply not the way it's supposed to be. That is not the design.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to be one of the most blissful experiences that you'll ever have in your life,
Yeah.
down to pushing that child out of your body. Like
Mm-hmm.
it is the best ecstasy you'll ever have. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
literal, yeah, all the same like hormones that are going off when people are doing drugs are the
Yeah.
same ones that are at their highest peaks while you're having a baby. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
your ecstasy. So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
even, yeah, just I wish a lot more women could experience the true, and they will, I
Mm-hmm.
really do see and feel the movement of the divine feminine coming and restoring this narrative, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I also am so sad that so many women are still being abused and not being able to experience
Yeah.
the gift of childbirth and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, it feels good to talk about it, really, because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I do feel like super blessed to have this
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
And you should, because it's stories like yours that some woman's going to see you, hear your story, see the joy in your face and the love and the radiance that you have from birthing your baby in this way. And it'll change your mind, maybe. She'll say, oh,
Hmm.
I want that. I want that
Hmm.
too. And I can do it now.
Yeah,
So, mm-hmm,
biggest hope. That's
mm-hmm,
my biggest hope. It's just like, and because, a baby born into freedom is a baby who understands freedom from like the depth of who they
mm-hmm.
are, right?
Yep.
That's a baby who will grow into
Mm-hmm,
a young woman or a young man and know that the choices that they make are theirs, like that
mm-hmm,
they are sovereign beings. Like that was my one of my biggest things too. Like I want you to know freedom
mm-hmm,
from the depths of your being.
mm-hmm.
Know what
Yeah.
this looks like. And yeah, like that is such an important part of it. It doesn't stop at birth. It doesn't start at birth, nor does it stop at birth. Like this bleeds into like who your
Mm-hmm.
child will be. And like I know that
Yeah.
my birth experience affects who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people see it, don't understand the weightiness of this experience, but
Mm-hmm.
think about what's happening, like literally,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a sperm from someone else's body goes into your body, and then an egg chooses it and says yes, you can become a person, and then this thing grows into your body
Mm-hmm.
from the cosmos. Like this is actually a really big event that's happening, and but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's so like dismissed as
That's
like
nothing.
a medical tragedy.
Yeah,
No,
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
that's not right. That's not
No, no, not at
right.
all.
Yeah, so
Wow. Mm. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your words, Stella. It's so beautiful, and yeah, your journey, your experience, the way that you see life and the way that you look upon this is so what's the word? Like it's just so needed. And you're saying that you want to get into birth work, and your views and your ways and your understanding of birth and women and the magnificence of the magnitude of what women will go through is beautiful, that you'll be able to share it because you've had that firsthand experience to share
yeah.
with women, so that they can, as I keep saying, hear your story and glean the guidance that they need, learn the knowledge that they need from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I really appreciate being able to retell that, and relive this event, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so important. There was something else in my mind that I wanted to share, but it's escaped me now. But yeah, I want to encourage every single woman, and even
Mhm.
those that it doesn't pan out the way that they envision. Maybe this
Mhm.
is what they wanted, or I have a dear sister of mine who went into early birth, and her baby is no longer with us earth side. And like the reality is that we've been like, a narrative has been painted, right, that birth is like one of the most dangerous events that's ever going to happen, and like you need all of these you need all this backup stuff. And while I don't agree with that, the reality is that sometimes those things are life saving, and sometimes those things are not necessary at all and impede on the process of birth. You know what I mean? And like it's very much that it's such a surrender, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So I never want to paint a narrative that that it's just like a walk in the park and everything's going to be fine, and just don't worry about all the things that they say. And
Mhm.
no, I think it's very nuanced. I think it's very
Mhm.
much everyone is handed the cards that they are handed, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, but what are you going to do with them, and how do you find your freedom through your circumstance? You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so like I yeah, I want to give reverence and honor to those whose experience has not panned out this way,
Mhm.
while still encouraging people that they're still in control of the narrative and what they're
Mhm.
believing about what happened, and all of the things
Mhm.
that come from that. And like, yeah, that that's just
Mhm.
another note that I want to add, because I
Mhm.
hate when people feel like, oh, that's just for you, that didn't happen for
Mhm.
me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Mhm.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's perfect words to end on. That's excellent the way you explained it.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks so
Mhm.
much, Karma. I
No
appreciate
worries.
your comments.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you were able to come on and share, because this whole platform, this whole movement wouldn't be possible without women like you wanting to share their stories. Um, so yeah, thank you for coming on. And one last question before we go.
Okay.
If any woman wanted to reach out to you to speak to you to glean some more of your knowledge, is there a way that they can do that if you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have on Instagram my business page. It's called Freedom Birth Story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just mainly my page where I'm building my birth business and
Mm-hmm.
photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then my personal page is Stella's Freedom Story. So
Nice.
that's where someone could find me if they want to, and they can just shoot me a DM, and I would love to talk to anyone and share more of my story with anyone. Or if you're in the Ohio region
Mm-hmm.
area, greater Cincinnati area, I would
Mm-hmm.
love to connect with
Mm.
any women who are around here as well.
Perfect. Oh, that's wonderful. I will make sure to put all that in the show notes, and hopefully these women reach out to you because you've got stuff that they could probably use.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Karma.
No worries. Thank you, sisters, so much for listening to this episode of the Free Birthing in Color podcast. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one in a primal activation session, donate to the podcast, or to have your story featured here or in the blog, go to primalwomanportal.com for all the information to do so. Did you want to connect with our guest speaker? You can find all her information linked within the show notes. And if you have time, please subscribe, write a review, and tell a friend to have a listen so that this podcast and these stories of women birthing in their total power can be shared far and wide. Don't forget to check out the show notes for information on the Earth Daughters Women's Festival, the Breach Without Borders workshop, and much more. New episodes drop every Thursday morning, so stay tuned for the next amazing story to be shared on any platform that you prefer to listen to your podcasts on, or watch these episodes on the Free Birthing in Color YouTube page. And remember, Your voice and your story matters. So if you're a woman of color or an Indigenous woman who's had a wild pregnancy and or birth outside of the medical system, submit your story because it's so important that your voice is heard and celebrated in your radical journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood.